الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيد المرسلين. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Jazakallah for tuning in. This live broadcast is brought to you by Ilm City Blackburn. Every night of Ramadan, Ilm City have been bringing a number of live programs on a wide range of issues and topics. And inshallah, this program will be continuing through every night throughout Ramadan. Bi'idhnillah ta'ala. I'd like to thank and applaud Ilm City and Salman Bhai and his team for taking the initiative and running this, and also to thank them for giving me the opportunity to host tonight's program and sharing in the blessings. Our topic for tonight is the Islamic perspective on
Your volume has dropped. Bismillah.
Can you hear me?
Now, Bismillah.
Alhamdulillah. Where did I cut off? What was the last thing that you heard, Imam Sahib?
Allahumma salli wa sallam wa barik. You were thanking Salim Bhai and the whole Ilm City team.
Yes. So as I said, I'd like to thank them for letting me host tonight's program and inviting myself and Imam Sahib with us here tonight, and to join in with reaping the blessings that they are getting, mashallah. Our topic for today is the Islamic perspective on mental well-being. And with me, I have Allama Shaykh Imran Muhammad Al-Azhari. And as his name suggests, he is a graduate of Jamiat Al-Azhar University in Cairo. He has been an imam in several masajid up and down the northwest of England. He has been a chaplain with the prison service. He has been an advisor for the Medina Sighting Network, and he is currently a lecturer with the Manchester Muslim College. So, Imam Sahib, thank you very much for joining us. Jazakallah khair. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam wa barakatuh. Jazakallah khair for having me. Allah give you strength, inshallah ta'ala. I also would second this by saying to the team of Ilm City, Alhamdulillah, you're doing a wonderful job. Allah give you strength, inshallah ta'ala. Salim Bhai, Allah give you strength for inviting different scholars, different ulama, or different skills and abilities to come to this particular platform and to talk and discuss about different aspects of Ad-Din al-Islam to the Ummah, inshallah. So, Jazakallah khair. Nadir, it's nice seeing you again, Alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah. Imam Sahib, before we go into our topic for this evening, can I please request that you recite a few couplets from Imam Busiri's Qasida Burda Sharif, if that's okay.
مولاي صل وسلم دائما أبدا على حبيبك خير الخلق كلهم محمد سيد الكونين وثقلين والفريقين من نور ومن عجم مولاي صل وسلم دائما أبدا على حبيبك خير الخلق كلهم يا أكرم الخلق ما لي من علو ذو به سواك عند دخول الحديث العمامي مولاي صل وسلم دائما أبدا على حبيبك خير الخلق كلهم. Is that okay?
MashaAllah. Jazakallah khaira. Imam Sahib, I definitely got those vibes, back in the day when there was no TV and the Ramadan radio would be on before iftar and the Kasida Burda would be playing before iftar. So Jazakallah khaira. May Allah Ta'ala bless you and bless your voice.
Allah give you strength, inshallah. Allah give you barakah, bi'idhnillah. Allah barik feekum, mashallah.
So we'll go into our topic. As I said, our topic for tonight is the Islamic perspective on mental well-being, which is actually a very pressing issue for our times, especially as we're drawing towards the end of times. Stress levels, anxieties, it's generally because of all sorts of issues that are going on in our world currently, I think affect each and every one of our mental well-being. And in the current climate with COVID-19 as well, where individuals have been disconnected from each other, families aren't being able to connect with each other. I think it's a testing and difficult time for many people. So I think it's a topical issue, and inshallah we'll be trying to, put some clarity on it and see what our Deen has to say about it. So Imam Sahib, just straight off the bat to you, when we're talking about mental well-being, what are we talking about?
We're basically talking about something which Ad-Din al-Islam has discussed and mentioned many centuries ago, in fact. I'll touch upon the definition in a few seconds, but let me just tell you this much, that within Ad-Din al-Islam, before Ahkam al-Sharia, before the rules and regulation of Sharia come into being, Shariat has maqasid. There are certain objectives and purposes of Sharia. And amongst the maqasid of Sharia, the bottom line is preservation. To preserve what? 5 essential things. Preservation of human well-being, religion, life, intellect, lineage, property, etc. Now, if you look at the foundation of Ad-Din al-Islam, if you look at the foundation of Sharia, what you find is that these 5 basic areas, which encapsulate all of humanity, all aspects of humanity, are preserved. Within that, you have something called the well-being or the preservation of the intellect. Now, the mind, the brain, is a very significant part of the human body. In fact, we stay in the mother's womb for 9 months because of the development of the brain. The human body develops within a number of months, early months. But the bit that does not develop until, or needs importantly to be incubated within the womb of the mother, is the brain. Because this is a very significant part of the human being, right? Now, keeping that in mind, keeping that understanding in the mind, one thing we have to keep this, and especially in our discussion, just our conversation today, is this, that in engagement with our surroundings, all of these 5 areas are impacted. Okay, may that be human beings, as our well-being, religion, life, intellect, lineage, property, whatever it is, all is impacted. But one of the main areas which is bombarded, and let me share something with you. We are bombarded by 11 million bytes of information per day. That is a lot of information, right? Naturally, that will impact the state of our mind. Okay, so keep that in mind, and let me tell you about the definition of what is mental health and mental well-being. Let's get this straight. Everybody has mental health. Okay, aql salim, the state of the mind itself. It involves our emotional, psychological, and our social well-being. And this affects, Nadir, how we think, feel, and act. That's what this is. It's who we are. as beings, right? So mental health is all related to this. It also helps to determine how we handle stress, strain, difficult times related to others and our choices in our life. That's what mental health is. It's how we engage with our surroundings, the people that we interact with, the situation that we fall in. How do we deal with that? How do we deal with trauma? How do we deal with pain? How do we deal with loss? Okay? So the mental health is dependent upon all them aspects and elements. The World Health Organization, and let me give you the official definition of mental health, defines mental health as a state of well-being in which the individual realizes his or her own abilities, can cope with the normal stresses of life, can work productively and fruitfully, and is able to make a contribution to his or her community. Yani al-fardu salim.
Very wide-ranging definition, isn't it?
It is, but if you think about it, we are talking about the state of the self. That's what mental health is, state of the self, right? Now, if we're talking about state of the self, then what is the self? The human being is not one dimension, is it? We are multi-dimensional creatures. And naturally, if we are multi-dimensional creatures, this definition needs that many elements to it in the reality. Bismillah.
Okay. I mean, the question that comes to my mind, I mean, just based on what you said, is, I mean, you mentioned what the WHO says, and I think generally a lot of the scientific definitions. But is there a reference to mental well-being in Deen al-Islam? Is there a particular reference in the Quran and the Sunnah specifically to mental well-being and mental health?
Well, within per se, the mental health state and etc. is not discussed within itself. But as I just touched upon the idea of maqasid al-Sharia, that's why I touched on it, to state that one of the main areas that Deen al-Islam discusses and wants to preserve is the mental state, is the intellect, is the human's cognitive state. It wants to do that. So it has encoded or brought into and preserved within the Sharia structure. So laws, rules, regulations have been put into place to make sure that this is preserved. And how do you preserve that? You preserve that in how you consume what it consumes. So within Sharia, within the Quran, within Hadith of Rasulullah, there's a lot of discussion around the lack of use of substances, the hurmat of alcohol, the hurmat of those stimuli which numb the mind, or those substances which numb the mind, okay, where the human being loses the state of the sense of knowing who they are, where they are, what are they doing here, okay. So Ad-Din al-Islam or Sharia talks about it in that context. And these are all elements which are affected or impacted on the brain, upon the self as an individual, right? So from the Quranic perspective as well, of course, which of course relates to the Sharia itself, that is what we are talking about. That is about the preservation of intellect and the self. And the intellect comes into that. The human brain comes into that. The human state comes into that. Now look at this. Let me share something with you. Within the tradition of Rasulullah ﷺ, and I want to share this because there's a lot of stigma around illness and people who are inflicted by illness. Now, regardless of what the illness is, right? Now, I remember when I was reading, I teach, like you said, students in a college, and we were teaching Kitab al-Tib in Ibn Majah, right, for Dura Hadith. Now, the Hadith of Rasulullah ﷺ, of course, are talking about physical medication, which you take, dawa, right? Now, but it also talks about the whole idea of prevention is better than cure. It's a type of lifestyle you live. Is what do you do on a daily basis? How do you engage with the surrounding around you, right? which impacts the being, impacts the psyche, impacts the soul, impacts the physical, mental, and spiritual state of a human being. Okay, but from that perspective, at least. But inshallah, once we start discussing a little bit more, I want to bring into something which I believe is a misunderstanding of how the Muslims see mental health, right? Or misunderstanding of how it is perceived within our community, especially in our intellectual, academic world, right? So inshallah, we'll bring that in as we're discussing even more detail.
Jazakallah. Just a question I have for you actually is, were the Anbiya or any of our pious predecessors, were they ever tested in terms of their mental well-being through their experiences?
Yeah, let me put it like this. It probably would not be called mental health or the mental state, but the being was always tested. You know, وَلَا نَبْلُوَنَّكُمْ بِشَيْءٍ مِّنَ الْخَوْفِ وَالْجُوعِ وَنَقْصٍ مِّنَ الْأَمْوَالِ وَالْأَنفُسِ وَالثَّمَرَاتِ وَبَشِّرِ الصَّابِرِينَ. As for one example, in the Quran al-Kareem, at the time of Badr, but the Sahaba Ridwanullah alayhim and Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam is being tested and says, do you think you won't be tested? Right? The test is of all kinds. Loss of wealth, loss of money, loss of status, loss of position, loss of life, loss of everything. Okay. Now, if you think about it for a second, if you're being tested continuously, you are under pressures of very, very extreme pressure, very extreme force, right? Anbiya Kiram, for example, they came to those ummahs. And Quran is scattered with stories of this kind, where you find how the ummah or their people, their nations reacted towards them. Some rejected them, some neglected them, some, killed them, some tried to force them, some tried to boycott them. There's many, many strange, difficult type of interaction that they had. Now, if it was a normal human being, they would have reacted in a very different way. There are people who have anxiety. There are people who have depression. There are people who have, who've become very detached from society and community because of that mental state that they go through of rejection, of neglection, right? Continuously. That would have happened. But in the case of the Anbiya, they were put into that situation, circumstances, because, as the Quran says, we do not burden the self the more than it can take. So the Anbiya were given this status, this job, this position of Nabuwa, of Risala, and not saying that they were not tested with the pressures of that time. Of course they were. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala also gave them the protection, hifaza, which is important to keep in mind. Let's take example of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Nabi Karim sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wa sallam, from the time he was born till the day he took parda from this world, right? Every aspect you read of his seerah is some sort of trial, some sort of tribulation, okay? From being born as an orphan, mother dying at the age of 6, grandfather dying at the age of 8, being in the custody of his uncle, becoming a shepherd at the age of 9 or 10, then finding some monetary engagements, financially, etc., finding something for himself. Didn't want to put burden on his uncle. At the age of 15, he started to become a merchant, right? Etc., etc., etc. Now, if you start looking at this basic trait or basic elements within the seerah of Rasulullah alayhi salatu wasalam, I've read a paper on the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam upon the psychology of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. The psychology. Someone wrote an amazing piece of work, a report, an amazing paper of research on what should be in the context of modern understandings of psychological state. If someone diagnosed him, right, through psychotherapy or etc., what would they come to? What conclusion did they come to? You know what the conclusion was? The conclusion was that this person should be given some sort of psychological intervention. He should be given some sort of counseling intervention. He should have been, all types of support and help that we have. He should be given that. But the one who's writing it is a Muslim. So what he's done is is really good. What he's done is that he's taken the the so-called mainstream understanding or contemporary understanding of what if it's this pressure on a certain person, if this type of loss, if this type of violation, if this type of what happens to the individual, how would they react? They come out conclude. So he puts an argument against that. Okay, even though this is what you say it would be, but the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, became one of the most successful men of all time. So successful that Michael H. Hart, who wrote the 100 most influential personalities of all time, who did he put number one? Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. Right? And he didn't only look at one dimension. He looked at how the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, was as a ruler, as a general, as a religious ruler, as a holder of ideas, phenomena, concepts, as a father, as a husband, as a community worker, as many aspects, many dimensions. So he looked at all of that and he came to only one conclusion. The most successful personality of all time, right at the top of it, is Muhammad Rasulullah.
Subhanallah.
You understand? So, but that tells you something, that if we start to look at the Prophet ﷺ in the context of his circumstances, then the conclusions that we get would be very different. But the amazing thing about the beauty of the Prophet ﷺ is he does not comply to our conclusions. He complies to the conclusion of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
Imam Sahib, you mentioned about the seerah of the Prophet ﷺ. I think one particular event comes to my mind, at least. You mentioned about very significant people who the Prophet ﷺ was under the protection of, at different parts of his life, passing away. And one, I think, element of the seerah that comes to my mind is the year of sadness. When the Prophet ﷺ's wife, al-Mu'mineen Sayyidah Khadija radiallahu ta'ala anha, she passed away. And I think your point is absolutely, bang on and correct, that, the way that they were tested is, unprecedented. And also the event of, Taif, so early on in their tabligh and their dawah, going to, they had, obviously the Prophet had that dard, that pain for mankind. They came as mercy to all of creation. And to go to that city, to bring them too close to Islam, and then to be treated in that way, I think is also, was a big challenge for them. Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. But my question to you on that actually is, in terms of how the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam coped with these difficulties, what sort of prophetic traits, what sort of sunnahs can we take away and learn from that, perhaps we can adopt in our own lives to be able to deal with mental health issues?
Well, the first and foremost thing is this, that the acknowledgement that illness is from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and well-being is from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This state of being, belief, is highly important. Like I said, that Ad-Din al-Islam came to remove stigma around illnesses. The numerous hadiths which talk about iyadatul marid, the going and visiting of the marid, right? Why? Because when an ill person is going through a certain state of mind, heart, body, soul, whatever it is, they need support at that time. And at that time, they are so fragile, right? It is essential that others support them in times of great vulnerability. This is the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ, in supporting and helping those who are going through some sort of sickness and sort of illness. Now, regardless if that illness is physical, spiritual, mental, doesn't matter. The thing is, it's an illness. Hadith Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, a Sahabi Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam visited the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and he was suffering from a high fever. Nabi Karim sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So he says, Sahabi Rasul says, I touched the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam hand and I said, "Oh Allah, oh Allah's apostle, you have a high fever." Allah's apostle Rasulullah said, "Yes, I have as much fever as two men." Of how many? Of two men. He was so sick, so ill. So I said, is it because you will get a double reward? Now listen to this. The Prophet ﷺ said, no Muslim is afflicted with harm because of sickness or some other inconvenience, but that Allah will remove his sins for him as a tree sheds its leaves. Do you know how much that statement does for the well-being of the well-being of our mind and our brain, our mental health? To know that I am afflicted by difficulty, trial, tribulation, sickness, illness, but my Lord is there to help me. He's there to support me. He's there to care for me.
Just on what you just mentioned, I'm just like ask a question on that. Quite often in our societies, especially if somebody is going through any sort of mental health issues, people are very quick to say that, you're going through so and so because you're disconnected with Allah, or that you're going through some sort of you're lacking spirituality. But from what you're saying, to me, it sounds like actually, if you're closer to Allah, you get tested more, and especially with illnesses, with different calamities. I mean, how does that work?
It works perfectly. This is the beauty of our Deen al-Islam. Look, we are in unprecedented times. We are in times of COVID-19, right? Now, some people have said, oh, this is azab from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is punishment from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for our sins that we have done. Let me be very clear with you. There is sound hadith of Rasulullah alayhi salatu wasalam. Hadith Qudsi. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, I will not punish anyone on earth until Muhammad Rasulullah is residing amongst you. This is a promise. Alayhi salatu wasalam. About Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. This is a haqq. And if this is haqq, this is what we believe in, then what do these illnesses mean then? Let's look at the Quran. I've just given you a prime example. We will test you. Test you for what? To stay how much sabr you do. What does the Quran say? When calamities befall them, they say, Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un. True, isn't it? They say, indeed, we come from Allah, indeed, we will go back to Him. All our calamities, all our wabas, all our, types of illnesses and afflictions and whatever they are a test for us. And let me share something else with you. A hadith of Rasulullah alayhi salatu wassalam, as we are on this particular topic at this moment in time and discussing this. Abu Sa'id al-Khudri radiyallahu ta'ala anhu reported that the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam said, whenever a Muslim is afflicted with a hardship, sickness, sadness, worry, harm, depression, even a thorn's prick, Allah removes his sins because of it. 1 minute. It just suddenly changed, didn't it? The dimension just suddenly changed. You think just now, what? Let me share this with you as well. Rasulullah said, go and visit the people who have become afflicted by sickness. Ask them to do dua for you. As a call is sahi. Ask them to do dua for you. Why? Because at that time, they are very close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So what does sickness become? What does illness become? What does this state become? Of salvation. Opportunity to shed our sins. So let's clarify that first. I hope that has clarified it. Yeah, this is not an azab. This is a test Test is different. Test is for a short period of time to see what is your rank and your position. Azab is a long period, and that is ala yawm al-qiyamah, not today. That's what it is. This is a trial. What are you doing? How are you doing? What are you going to do? How are you going to do it? Are you going to be patient, or are you going to fall? What are you going to do?
So you touched on this point a bit throughout our session today, but when people are suffering from mental health issues, and we see that somebody is, what sort of hukuk al-ibad, what sort of rights is it that we must that we're accountable for? What sort of rights do we need to fulfill? And just generally, if somebody is going through these sort of issues, how can we support them? Are there any certain do's? Are there any certain don'ts that we should be mindful of?
Yes, first and foremost, of course, from the perspective of those who are around people who may have mental health problems, mental health issues, emotional health problems, and etc. You understand?
If I can just say one more thing. If I can just say one more thing, specifically on the point that obviously a lot of people have physical illnesses and those are very apparent. Mental illnesses are those that are not always apparent. So how can we consider that as well? I mean, just to add to the question as well.
Yeah, very good point. Well, what you need to keep in mind is a person who has mental health problems or mental health issues, like we said, is very diverse, very, very broad in definition, as been discussed. One of the key traits of a person who has mental health problem is that they become very like a recluse. They keep themselves away from people, right? They're that type of individuals. When they express some concern or problem, it's very to themselves. It's a very isolated way of dealing with things, right? But because mental health and emotional health, now this is emotional is a slightly different area of discussion, but emotional health is state of the heart. So mental health is related with the brain, but emotional health deals with the heart. Now, a person who's going through trial and tribulation of the heart, issues of the heart, emotions, feelings, anger, etc., they're much more expressive. They're much more explosive in the way they express themselves. So you can tell the difference of what type of problem they've got, if it's a mental one or if it's a emotional one. Now, those individuals, for example, who have this type of mental health problems and etc., first and foremost, the activities and etc. are not very mainstream, right? They will stop engaging with people. They will stop, dialogue. They will not prefer not to be around other people who are out of in society and community. Their social interactions will become very erratic. That type of, if they are in them places, they fear the engagement of other human beings and etc. We are talking about very extreme positions here, because majority of us are not in that position. Majority of us have underlying other issues going on, right? So we might have some elements of depression, some elements of anxiety, some elements of other type of underlying issues going on. Understand? That's what tends to happen, and everyone deals with it differently. Some use suppressants. They'll use alcohol. They will use drugs. They will use those type of activities which they believe are removing their attention away from the problem. In other words, something that for a short period of time, a band-aid that is put psychologically and they feel good for a short period of time. Numbness of the mind, high usage of substances, high usage of alcohols, high usage of those type of medication, probably legal medication, right? Legal highs, which people will use just by getting it from the doctor or from the pharmacy or chemist, from the chemist. So that's what they would do. So them are also indication. Look, I work in an environment where we get people who walk in and out of the system, right? Who come because of substance abuse, because of alcohol abuse, drug abuse. Okay. Now, what you find with these people is they always have some sort of underlying mental health problem going on. Of course, on the long term, some of them become physical problems. Cirrhosis of the liver, the failure of the heart, the failure of vital organs, and etc., which becomes a physical thing, right? But most importantly, within the brain, there's something that's happened. There's probably long-term abuse that has occurred. There is some sort of trauma that they've not dealt with. Death in family, or death in with a friend, and etc. They have seen something very traumatic which they haven't dealt with. Okay, they've not dealt with, and maybe their personal concern of loss, they've not dealt with. Okay, or whatever it is, whatever has impact or imbalanced it, they've not dealt with it. So what they're doing is they're masking it, masking it, masking it. How long can you mask it for?
Yeah.
You can't. Sometimes you have to let go of that and deal with it head on. Now, in that situation, as the people who are around them, first and foremost, it is important to hold them up, to support them through this. Don't just think, oh, he's not engaging, he's quiet, he doesn't want to converse with us, doesn't want to discuss with us. Oh, he's just a recluse anyway. Don't do that. You know, Ad-Din al-Islam, this is one of the most difficult things that's happened to us as a community, of not having access to masajid, not having access to social events, because we are a social religion, right? There's an element to us which helps us as an entity to help people with their mental health states. Because one of the key crucial things to deal with that is to be in an environment where you can socialize. You are around positive people. People who pick you up, not throw you down. If you come to the masajid regularly, if you do salah regularly, if you meet people regularly, look, our deen says smile is charity. Yeah. Now, it's a very simple thing, but within the context of mental health, this has a profound impact. Just by looking at someone and just smiling at them, I'm telling you my personal experience. One of the key things, especially I'm in a very heightened, pressured environment that I work in, and you know, it's hard sometimes keeping a smile, but I do it purposely, because I know that is not only helping me, it's helping the person who I'm going to see. In the way I meet a number of people, I see them, non-Muslims, Muslim, non-Muslims alike, and all I'm doing, morning, morning, sir, hi, sir, morning, sir, hello, hi, sir, morning, sir. Just by doing that, I know probably throughout the whole 2 days, he's not really had a conversation with anybody. Suddenly, someone has said to him, hi, sir, how are you? Good morning to you. And they're like, yeah, good morning. And a smile comes on their face.
It's a positive vibe, isn't it? It's a phrase, isn't it? Positivity brushes off on others.
It does. And this is a very crucial, important part of this.
Yeah.
Very important.
On this experience of yours, actually, I mean, working as a chaplain, working in the prison system, as you mentioned, you've come across people, you know, some of the most vulnerable people in our society. And you mentioned some of the underlying mental issues that these people might have. And actually, one of the questions, we've had a question come in, and I'd urge our viewers, as we're coming to towards the end of our session, that if you have any questions, then please do send them in. But one of the questions that's been asked is, actually, in your experience working in the prison system, with these, you know, our brothers and sisters who are, you know, some of the most vulnerable people, what sort of advices have you given them? What sort of work have you done with them to help them in their with their mental health being?
Alhamdulillah, one of the key things is, because I'm a man of faith, I am in there and on the basis of faith, religion, supporting them spiritually, as well as understanding that the spirit is impacted by the physical, which of course is impacted by the mental. They are all related. Right? First thing is to understand them, what's going on. Just by going and listening to them leaves an impact. Someone is ready to give them time. That has much more profound impact on that person's psychological, mental state than a lot of other activities that you can do. Because sometimes all it takes someone to listen to them, to hear them. And not like this, you got in there 2, 4, 5 minutes, you got out. No, physically, mentally, spiritually present in front of that person. I had the honor to do that. I have been in situational circumstances with individuals where their state of mind is simply, I am the worst human being on earth. I have fallen from grace. I have no family. I have no friends. I have nobody. I'm useless. And the only thing I can do is kill myself. And when they make an argument, and when you stand in their feet, you think about it, you think, oh my God, It looks like there's no answer for this. But one of the key things, and let me share something. I'm going to share something with you, which is a brilliant book to read. You see this book? I don't know if you can see it. Emotional First Aid. One of the key areas, one of the key problems, or some of the key problems is we don't forgive ourselves. Forgiveness, or if someone has done something to us, we don't let go. That has a profound negative impact upon our mental state. There's something called forgiveness therapy. See, I do that. I do that with individuals. It's part of one of the remits, because forgiveness is part and parcel of our tradition. Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala is Ghafoor Rahim. And in fact, if you think about it, there's a hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu hadith Qudsi as well, inspired by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, I will destroy that world where there were sinners. There were no sinners. There were no sinners. I will destroy that world. Create a world where there were sinners and they asked for forgiveness. Kullu ibn Adam khata, khayru khata'in tawwab. All of the sons and daughters of Adam are sinners, and the best amongst them are those who ask for forgiveness. That's number one. That's what we engage with. Number two is this: to forgive someone else. When someone has wronged you, when someone has hurt you, when someone has taken away from you, when someone has abused you, when someone has done all this to you, by holding on to that, all the research shows physical pain comes and goes. But internal, psychological, emotional pain, emotional trauma is more than 40% more powerful than the physical. So you are hurting yourself on a daily basis by not letting go. This is called restorative justice.
Yeah.
Where you deal with the problem that's in front of you and then you let go. For Allah's sake. And what does our tradition teach? It teaches that. Our deen teaches that. It's foundation of our deen. And there's a whole theory, it's called forgiveness theory. Check it out. These are non-Muslim psychologists, all right, who have done research around this and feel that you need to let go. If you don't let go, there is internal trauma all the time. That is the worst thing you can do to you for the well-being of your mind or the health of your mind. And one more thing, let me share with you, which is highly important. We are near the end of our discussion now. Is being grateful for what you have. That's a big issue that we have. One of the key things that impacts our psychological state. I can't see light anywhere. Can't see light. All I see is darkness. Even though I'm breathing, I'm eating, I'm living, I have a roof over my head, I'm outside, I'm protected from the elements, I have people that love me, care for me, look after me. And one of the key things is we do not embed within ourselves the sense of what? Gratitude. And what does the Quran say? The Quran clearly states, the one who does not do shukr, la azida, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not increase anything towards them. He doesn't give them even more. What does he say? The one who is grateful, he gives them even more and more abundantly. The state of mind of positivity, being in a state, for certain people, it is a chore. This is why it is important to get into some sort of therapy, some sort of training, being around people who are positive, being around individuals who are positive. Mind your body. In other words, look after your physical self. By looking after your physical self, it will have an impact upon your psychological state. If you feel that you have body negativity, right, that comes from somewhere. You want to go somewhere with your physical self, work on it. Do voluntary work. Engage with the world. What this will do, by giving to others, fi sabilillah, the impact of that is profound internally. It creates happiness in your heart and your mind, and it has positive vibe upon your on your brain. Relax. Relax. Chill out. Give yourself some time. You are important. You are significant. Don't work yourself into the ground. Don't do it.
So these last few, I think, these last few pearls, I think you've given are just, beautiful. And I think the crux of, the transformative change that we as individuals can make. And especially being in the month of Ramadan, Ramadan is for each individual a month of change. We can all improve. We always think, in terms of, how can I be a better person? What sort of habits can I adopt? How can I change myself? And I think when we think of our physical health, trying to be healthy, we adopt certain lifestyles, we adopt certain habits, whether it's going to the gym the extra time or changing our diet. In the same way, you're absolutely right. We have to change ourselves, our habits, to improve our mental well-being as well. And I think what better month, I think as you touched on, what better time and what better month to bring those changes than the month of Ramadan, because we're already trying to adopt, changes into our lives that inshallah we'll be taking on after the month of Ramadan as well. Imam Sahib, may I thank you for taking the time this evening to discuss this topic with us. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless you more and more, bless you and your family. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept all of your ibadah in this month and increase you in your ilm and your amal, inshallah ta'ala.
Ameen ya Rabbil Alameen. And yours, my brother, and everyone who is on the team at this moment. Jazakallah khair. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Imam Sahib, before you say your salams, actually, I want to request that you do one final dua and actually pray for the Ilm City team and pray for their families as well. For all the hard work that they're doing to bring programs like this to us every single day of this month.
Allahumma salli wa sallim ala Sayyidina Habib Muhammadin wa ala alihi wa ashabihi barik wa sallim. Ya Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, whatever the effort, whatever time, whatever trial, whatever tribulations, these brothers, these sisters who have took upon their shoulders to do this work of Adin al-Islam, Ya Allah tabarak wa ta'ala, increase them, make them stronger, make them steadfast, make them people who other people are getting help and support from, Ya Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that this platform becomes the means of people learning, seeking, gaining, and bettering themselves, inshallah. Wa sallallahu ta'ala ala habibihi Muhammad wa ala alihi wa ashabihi ajma'in. Ameen. Bi rahmatika ya rahim.
Jazakallahu khair.